Hey everyone, I just want to do a really quick video here and talk about these nickel metal hydride button batteries that are used in a whole slew of electronics to keep the memory or the clock running. These guys can only run for 200 to 500 cycles before they die, so they don't have a really good lifespan. I had two timers, this one and this one, that had died and they were waiting to get the button battery replaced, but I decided I'm going to try something different. And replace them with supercaps. This button battery is a 1.2 volt battery and it has a 80 milliamp hour capacity, which is great if it lasted a long time. This is a 5 farad supercap and it can do 500,000 to 1,000,000 cycles. So it's going to last a lot longer. It does have a lot lower energy storage than a battery, but these guys I charged up yesterday after replacing the batteries in them with supercaps, and they've been unplugged for a full day and they're still running great. I'm not sure how long they'll run for, but most power outages last a few minutes to a couple hours. That's going to be more than sufficient to keep the memory alive on these. So this one has the nickel metal hydride battery cell still in it, and I expect it to die soon. Since that's the same unit as this one that I bought at the same time, I'm going to replace that with this 10 farad ultra cap. Also, prices. I think I looked at these on Amazon. You can get a 2-pack for like $8, maybe $9 on Amazon. You can get a 10-pack or a 6-pack of these, I think, for $8 on Amazon. So anyways, if you want to see how I'm going to replace this battery with a ultra cap, stick around, watch that video, and I'll show you real quick. I used a 5 farad in this guy, just strictly due to the case size, being able to close the case up and still have it inside without having to modify the case to make it fit. If I would have done a 10 farad in that one, it wouldn't have fit. This one I used a 10 farad inside of it because it fits fine. So you can see right here, it's a 10 farad right there. So anyways, it fits inside the case perfectly fine. That's why I went with the larger one for this timer. And anyways, stick around. I'll show you guys how to replace these. Okay, so let's get started on this. I removed 3 Phillips screws from these positions, and for this device specifically. And then you just wiggle the case apart. And in here, there's 2 more screws that I have to pull out on here. This will be different for different devices, of course. But instead of throwing these things in the trash when they die, I just find it much better to repair them. But so pull this circuit board out. Got to push the plug out of there, and that gives us access to the bottom side of the circuit board where the battery is. And the easiest thing to do is to just clip the leads instead of desoldering it. So you just need a little pair of dikes, and then the small side of these button batteries is the positive side and the larger side is the negative side. So just put a little mark on the circuit board. Sometimes the boards are marked. This one actually is, but I'm going to just put a red mark right here just so I know which side is the plus side. Mark it however you want, and it'll help you remember which side's the plus side if the board's not already marked. I'm just clipping the legs of the battery so it's easier to work with it. Then we come to the back side of the board, and it's this pin here and that pin there. And we'll go ahead and desolder, take the solder and chunk them out. Just clean them up a little bit. Just get a little bit of that solder off of there. But it's not totally cleared out. So the easiest thing to do now is take whatever capacitor you're going to put in there. Most of these will have a longer leg on them, and that's usually the positive side. But we're going to leave these legs really long so I can work with bending this thing around in here. So I left them about that long. And the capacitor has stripes, usually for the negative side. So if you cut the long leg off and you can't remember, like this Maxwell capacitor, these little stripes are the negative side, and the other side is the positive side. There's no marking on the positive side, but it is the longer leg. So just gotta make sure you get your orientation correct. The negative side goes there and the positive side goes there. And I just take them and hold it in with one finger while holding the board, and then take the soldering iron and push the remaining part of the terminal out while heating the legs side by side, one at a time, and then the leg will push through. But you'll need to pull it back unless you want to cut them off at that length. But let's see. Go ahead and heat them up. Get them right to the length I want them, which is about there. And then I'm going to touch some solder to it. So I'm going to heat the pad. If you notice, I'm not touching the solder to the soldering iron tip. I'm waiting until the pad and the metal heats up and then touching it to there. That way you don't end up with a cold solder joint. Let it cool down, and then you can fold this cap over like so, and you can see the unit's not on anymore because the cap's totally discharged. And then we'll put this unit back together. Throw those two caps in. Now these ultra caps take a lot of energy to refill them, so they can draw the circuit down. And on this specific unit, I think it took about 30 minutes for the display to actually come back on after plugging it back in, because it took that long to get this ultra super cap to charge up. But I was monitoring it with the multimeter, and it took almost an hour and a half to fully charge the cap before it was at the steady state voltage of the charge circuit, which is about 1.5 volts. So anyways, that was all that's involved in it. I'm not going to put the screws back in it, so we can just plug it in so we can look at it. But I'll go ahead and plug it in. So I just want to show you on a multimeter with it connected across the cap how slow this cap's going to charge with the charge circuit, just so not to fret when you replace it that your display is not coming on as soon as you plug it in. It takes a good amount of time to charge that cap up. You can see it's moving about a millivolt every couple of seconds or second or so. This display needs to get up to about, or the circuit needs to get up to about a volt before the display comes on. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and when we get up to about a volt and when the display turns on, I'll resume it so you can see that. So it's been a little while, and we're up to about 913 millivolts on the cap. The circuit's starting to show a little bit on the display. You can barely see it. Once we get a little bit over like 1.2 volts, this display will be fully on. But it's going to take another hour or so for this guy to reach the peak voltage of this charge circuit, which is about 1.5 volts. So I'll revisit you in a little while, and you can take a look at that. Hey guys, so here we are quite a bit later, maybe an hour and a half later. The voltage on this is capping out at around 1.378 volts, which is interesting because the other one, which was the exact same unit, was capping out at about 1.5 volts, which may have caused the acceleration of the death of the nickel metal hydride that was in there, because the maximum charge voltage recommended is about 1.4 volts for these guys, for nickel metal hydride batteries. But anyways, I pulled that battery out just to make sure that this unit didn't die when it's left on in the circuit. Anyways, hope this video helps you guys out, and yeah, don't throw your devices in the trash just because of a little tiny defective battery in there. This unit hopefully will last for many more years until something else like the relay dies in it. I'll probably fix it then too. But anyways, hope you guys found this helpful, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.